members of the committee, I'm proud to be here this morning to represent the State Department to have the opportunity to discuss this very important and vital issue in America's efforts to combat threats to our society from terrorism. Information intelligence is a key weapon in the global war on terrorism. Having timely and accurate intelligence is essential to disrupt terrorist activity and to dismantle terrorist infrastructure. Mr. Chairman, as you mentioned, I have a detailed statement for the record, and I'd like to just briefly summarize my remarks in that statement. I would start by indicating my great respect for the men and women of the intelligence and law enforcement community of our nation and the tremendous work they are doing on the front lines of this battle against terrorism. And certainly their efforts should not in any way be diminished by our inability so far to perhaps exchange that information more effectively. They are fighting America's wars today and are fighting it very effectively. The Office of the Coordinator for Counterterrorism, the office I'm privileged to lead, has a responsibility for coordinating the international counterterrorism policy with the U.S. government and our foreign governments around the world. We are a major intelligence consumer rather than a producer of intelligence. Our mission depends on timely and efficient flow of information on terrorism and terrorist threats. It also depends on an open relationship with our international partners and the exchange of intelligence information that's so vital in helping them to assist us in the global war on terrorism. I want to emphasize that our department has committed itself, and our Secretary, in working aggressively with our fellow agencies and international partners to make sure that that information is exchanged that allows us to detect, deter, and disrupt terrorist activities around the world. Responding specifically to the questions the committee has asked, Mr. Chairman, the State Department and its overseas posts are integrated both into the classified and unclassified electronic communications networks used by federal intelligence agencies. The State Department both receives and transmits information on terrorism directly through those channels. Our Bureau of Intelligence and Research receives terrorism-related sensitive classified information through intelligence community components. In 1987, the State Department established a tip-off program for the purposes of using biographic information drawn from intelligence products for watch listing purposes. In 1993, we established the Visa's Viper program as a dedicated telegraphic channel for reporting information on known and suspected terrorists directly off the tip-off database. The Viper channel is used both by our post overseas and by intelligence agency headquarters in Washington, and it can accommodate multiple addresses to facilitate information sharing among its users. Our Bureau of Consular Affairs receives basic biographic data directly from the FBI's criminal databases, some of which might include information about terrorists, and feeds that information into our consular lookout and support system. We call it CLASS. All consular officers adjudicating visa applications overseas run checks against that system before a visa is issued. Our Bureau of Diplomatic Security receives information from a variety of sources domestically and from federal and local law enforcement agencies. Overseas, information is acquired from host governments or other U.S. government sources at our missions abroad. Once received, diplomatic security forwards this information for inclusion in tip-off or in the CLASS system. With regard to interagency groups, the State Department participates in a wide variety of interagency organizations and task forces. A few examples: the Bureau of Consular Affairs is represented on the FBI's Foreign Terrorist Tracking Task Force. The Bureau of Intelligence and Research represents the Department on the Interagency Intelligence Committee on Terrorism. The Bureau of Diplomatic Security is a member of the FBI's 19 of the FBI's regional joint terrorism task forces and a member of the headquarters Joint Terrorism Task Force. The Department is also integrated into a number of intelligence and law enforcement organizations, including Interpol, the DCI's Interagency Intelligence Committee on Terrorism, and the DCI's Counter-terrorism Center and the Office of Homeland Security. My office hosts liaison officers from both the CIA and the FBI International Terrorism Operations Section. As we turn to information technology, terrorism-related information, especially that used for watch-listing terrorists, is shared within and without the State Department through a variety of electronic media. For example, the Department's tip-off watch list program of 85,000 names receives information electronically and feeds it directly into the class system, which is checked by consular officers worldwide. Under the terms of a 1991 MOU approved by the intelligence and law enforcement community, that information is also entered into the Interagency Border Inspection System, IBIS, for use by U.S. immigration and customs officers at ports of entry. In August 2002, the entire tip-off database, including full biographic records on nearly 85,000 terrorist names, photographs, fingerprints, and online source documentation, was made available on CT-Link, Counterterrorism Link, to authorized users from 5 intelligence community and law enforcement agencies. The State Department Bureau of Intelligence and Research manages web pages available to other members of the intelligence community on 2 websites, one classified at the secret level, the other at the top secret level. The State Department's Bureau for Consular Affairs is an innovator in the use of advanced information technology to make the visa lookout information, including terrorist lookout, available to consular officers around the world on a real-time basis. Consistent with the requirements of the USA Patriot Act, more than 7 million names of persons within the FBI's criminal and other name retrieval records were added to the class system by August of 2002, augmenting the more than 5.8 million name records from state, INS, DEA, and intelligence sources contained in that system. With regard to state and local cooperation, the Department of State understands the benefits of integrating state and local enforcement agencies into its counterterrorism activities in accordance with applicable laws and regulations. The Bureau of Diplomatic Security has 21 offices in the United States, having liaison responsibility with state and local law enforcement on a variety of law enforcement issues. Currently, discussions are underway with the FBI, which will permit a portion of the tip-off database to be placed in the National Crime Information Center's Violent Gangs and Terrorist Organizations file for access by local law enforcement on a real-time basis. When we look at legal questions that affect our ability to exchange information, clearly there were, before the passage of the USA Patriot Act, impediments to the sharing of law enforcement data within our tip-off and class system. The Patriot Act has made significant improvements in the exchange of that information. Finally, Mr. Chairman, we believe the free flow of information regarding terrorism within the Department and between the Department and other agencies of our government, both federal, state, and local, is absolutely the most important thing we can do. While the flow of information has not always been unfettered, we see no institutional or organizational cultural impediments to information sharing that cannot be successfully resolved. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my overview of the testimony. At the conclusion, I'd be happy to answer your questions.